Brandon Benefield, Gerard Bonner, and Diana Michelle.
What's going on, everybody? It is that time of the week. It's Friday. You know what that means. It's time for your favorite podcast, the SHW podcast. This right here is our wrestling. I'm B-Double Brandon Benefield alongside the great GB Gerard Bonner and the beautiful Diana Michelle. We are back for the first time since what? Wait, what's going on? What face are you making?
I'm just laughing at Diana's face as you said the beautiful Diana Michelle, and she went.
I thought I made it funny. I thought I messed somebody's name up, and I was like, wait, what did I do? What did I do this time?
It was Diana's
I usually do some weird things with my hand, and I just felt like I'm being lazy today.
Because sometimes I'll get rolling, GB, and I'll like say something, and I'm like, wait, I said the completely wrong thing. Okay.
Nope, you're good. You're good.
Just making sure. But like I was saying, this is our first time back since an amazing show a couple of Fridays ago, SHW71, one for the ages, to be sure. But before we get into it, how's everybody doing? How your week's going? Everybody good?
My Friday was my Friday was Wednesday, so the rest of the week I've just been chilling.
Took a little day off, a little time off?
Yeah, just needed to recoup, reset. Just kind of.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and you need it sometimes. I don't get to do it very often, but yes.
Yeah. Very good. Well, it's always good to be with you guys. Always good to be with the family. And so it's going to be a fun time here tonight as we talk about all things SHW71.
Absolutely. Hey, Diana, I know you're down there in Dublin, Junior down there, not the main Dublin, Ireland, but Dublin, Georgia. And so I know you guys did a bunch of St. Patty's celebrating going on last week. Everything all good? Having a lot of fun doing all that?
Look, the Saturday, they call it Super Saturday. So it's like, if it's not on St. Patrick's Day, it's whatever Saturday it's closest. And there's everything from festivals. I mean, the whole festival is all month.
Yeah.
There's the parade. There's a concert. There's Main Street Munchies. There's arts and crafts. There's all kinds of stuff that you can go out in the middle of the morning, like early morning. You can do the road race. You can do the parade. You can do the munchies. You can do so much stuff, but we always do our gospel singing that night. So I try not to get out into the pollen because you know how I fight with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I missed it a little bit, but it was fun. That it's Dublin all month long. Like I said, everybody wears green every day of the freaking month. And when I skip out, that's why I got my little tattoo, because it's me and that's what I love. So it was fun. It's Dublin. It's not Savannah. It's nothing like Savannah. I don't know what they're doing down there, but we have our own little party all month long. Still going strong.
I love it. Well, on that note, on St. Patty's note, we, as you guys know, and a lot of the viewers know, a lot of the fans know, every single year I do a charity event called St. Baldrick's Foundation, where we shave our heads in solidarity with the little kids that lose their hair during cancer treatments, and of course raise money for treatments and research and all that kind of good stuff. So ours is coming up tomorrow. So we usually do it around St. Patty's Day, either the weekend before or the weekend after, with St. Patty's falling on, what was it, Monday of this past week? So it is coming up tomorrow, the 22nd. Just want to throw it out there and shout it out in case anybody wants to join us. We're going to be at O'Reilly's Public House in Sandy Springs. It's the same place we've been the last few years, and it's a good time. It's going to be from 12 to 4. I'll be out there emceeing the event. We're going to have music and all kinds of fun stuff. Bring the whole family, great food, great drinks, and we'll be shaving heads from noon to 4. So come on out, and when you see me this time next week, I won't have any hair left. So
that's how it goes. Every April show, you've got that skin.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So every March we have the event, and then usually by the April show, it's slowly growing back in. So, just wanted to put that out there before I forget, because I know I wanted to mention it on this week's show. So that it will be tomorrow, the 22nd. So come on out and join us. But with all that said, like I said, we're coming off of SHW71. It was an incredible show, and it's time for the recap. So, and by the way, before we get into the recap, it's on IWTV. It's there now.
It is.
So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. Pull it up on IWTV, and you can hear our lovely voices calling all the action, along with our pal Sal, who, by the way, we found out right before the last show that Jake the Snake, our matchmaker, has bestowed a new title to our pal Sal as the decision maker in Jake's absence. So when Jake can't be at the shows, Sal will be there to make decisions as needed. He can make matches as needed. And man, that was what was really funny about that, and you saw it during the opening of the show, and I believe GB you posted that earlier or yesterday, earlier this week, and you hear me kind of laughing and joking with Sal because for whatever reason, well, we kind of know the reasons because Aaron Dallas actually holds a victory over Sal Renaro. And so Sal kind of has a little bitter taste in his mouth from that. And anytime Aaron's in the ring doing anything, Sal is never really that kind to him on commentary. And so I thought it was funny that the first night of Sal kind of being in charge, the person opening the show was none other than Aaron Dallas. Diana, how was that for you? You're out there hyping the crowd. You get Aaron Dallas out there to kind of help you hype the crowd. That was the fun way to start the show, I thought. What'd you think?
Easy work for me. The crowd loves him.
Oh yeah,
they love him. When they see the truck pull up on the screen, they know exactly what's about to happen, who's coming out, what's going down. I mean, it's easy work. I'm just stand there and watch him do his thing, and the crowd just eats him alive. So it's great. I'm sorry Sal has such a hard time with Aaron, but you know, it is what it is. He's a fan fave. You can't deny it.
Yeah. What'd you think, GB, with Aaron Dallas starting out the show the other night?
Yeah, it's always fun to see, you know, we're kind of in a new era. There was a time, of course, where Gary Lamb seemingly started the show all the time. But, you know, with him not being in that role and not really being in the building, you know, the show can start in many different ways. And so why not with a crowd favorite like Aaron Dallas? As you were talking about him, I was just thinking about, you know, it seems like every year there is a new star that becomes the crowd favorite that we hadn't seen before. So for a while it was Hold My Beer Hansen, you know, for a little while, then it was Body Positive, you know, and now we're in this space of Aaron Dallas. So it seems like there will always be someone that the SHW faithful gravitate to. And what a great way for Aaron Dallas to connect with the people, absorb the cheers, and then even go in and spend most of the show sitting in the audience with the fans. I mean, where else can you go where your favorite wrestler is somewhere in the crowd next to you? That's the beauty of Southern Honor Wrestling.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, it was very cool having him just join the crowd because he's one of the people, you know, and he comes out there and just joins the crowd. There was a lot of action in the crowd. We'll get to a little later as the night would progress. But let's start out with the first match of the night. It was a triple threat match, one that we had been looking forward to for the last several months, one that had been building and building. And, of course, I'm talking about the triple threat match between Owen Knight, Grayson Pierce, and Jay Lucas on an already stacked card. What a massive way to open the show with that huge triple threat match.
I called that one for Owen, and I was very shocked that Jay come away with a win on that one. It was great. It was a lot of action, a lot of high flying, a lot of Grayson's wild, y'all. I mean, he is. I dig him. I like him. I like him in the singles, you know, by himself. I don't really know what to think about the whole Lev situation at the end of, was it the Lev match? Or was it?
Yeah.
It was that. I can't remember. Whenever he walked off and threw that shoulder into him, it was just weird.
Yeah.
But maybe Grayson is going to realize, you know, he doesn't actually need to be one of the family or whatever the faithful, whatever they are now, if they are anything.
Can't say that anymore.
Yeah, say that.
He can't, but I can.
There you go. Yeah.
So I don't really know what's going on there, but I mean, I like to see Grayson do his own thing. Jay showed out.
Oh yeah.
Jay showed out.
You knew he would.
Yes, we knew he would. I did call it for Owen, but Jay showed out. So, I mean, I'm not complaining. Great match.
Yeah. I think, you know, there's not been a space that I can remember in Southern Honor where three men were so connected over such a short period of time. You know, you had Owen beating Jay Lucas, and then you had Jay Lucas losing to Grayson Pierce. Grayson Pierce attacks the people. You know, like it just got wild and convoluted. And so this was kind of a must win for Jay Lucas because he had not scored a singles victory at all in Southern Honor. So, you know, he really needed to win this, as this seemed to feel like the culmination of this war between those three. And so Jay Lucas pulling off the win was certainly a very big moment for him. It seems as though the future is very, very bright for him here in Southern Honor. At the same token, I think the future is bright for Grayson Pierce as well, who really showcased, much to your point, Diana, that he can pull this off as a lone wolf. We'll get into kind of where he is with Lev and what all that looks like in a little bit, but he certainly seemed to be inspired by Lev. This whole thing that went down for the last 3 to 4 months is because he wanted to curry the favor of Lev. Owen Knight continues to be great. He's beaten both of those guys in singles matches over the last few months, so he doesn't lose any stock at all in this. But I do think as we look at kind of the two young guns in this, both of them end up having a great trajectory moving forward throughout the year here in Southern Honor.
Absolutely, and what a way to kick off the show. But it was that next matchup that I'm about to get to that kind of surprised everybody. It was not a scheduled matchup. What we were supposed to see was Messiah versus Savior. We had found out shortly before the show that unfortunately David Ali dealing with some health issues. Get well soon to David Ali, and hopefully we will end up seeing that match sometime down the road. And so we just figured Lev would end up having the night off. Well,
Right.
here comes Hunter James to the ring with Tristan Michaels calling for the microphone and basically calling Alexander Lev out, and we just get an impromptu match. And of course, I mentioned our pal Sal, given that, bestowed that duty of being a decision maker, a matchmaker when needed. And he was right there to set it up and set up the match. So then we got what I thought was an incredible matchup and maybe the beginning of a feud for years to come. GB, you kind of touched on this, I believe, on commentary. It kind of gave me that sense of like, you remember the early days of Rock Austin, the early days of Cena Orton, these feuds that would help build a company that would go on and last for years and years to come.
Yeah.
Did we see the beginning of that the other night with these two men, Alexander Lev and Hunter James? I think we might have.
I think so too. I think we're looking at a situation where, sometimes the best matches are the ones we didn't know we needed, right?
Exactly.
I don't think at any point, as we were preparing for SHW71, our minds were totally focused on Messiah versus Savior. We were totally locked in for that, totally ready for it. On my way to the building, I see, oh, snap, David Ali's not going to be there. Well, what will that do? Now, granted, we're very familiar with having to see things change on the fly. I mean, we've lived through the pandemic, right? Where cards were changing all the time. So, what would happen? We didn't know. We had no idea Hollywood Hunter James would be in the building and he would want to fight. And so when you think about these two guys, how they are connected, you're looking at the 2023 and 2024 Male Performer of the Year here in the state of Georgia. That speaks volumes. Then you look at Lev, of course, who in 2023 was the first Rookie of the Year. You're looking at two very decorated guys who are still very early in their careers here in the sport of pro wrestling. And so on a night that really focused on legends and newcomers, you've got this budding feud here that when you see their chemistry, you see how they're battling, you go, wait a minute. This is something that I want to see for a long time to come. And I don't think they settled anything. I mean, there was a winner and there was a loser technically, but this felt very much like chapter one of a long rivalry that will define, I think, Southern Honor. And God forbid they fight anywhere else, right? Like this is one of those battles that can make its way. I mean, literally, we could be, and I know people are going, it's only one match. You have to pay attention, right? You have to, very few times do we actually realize when history is being made in front of us. We usually have to get years down the road before we go, wow, that was kind of amazing. So to kind of be in the space where you can go, oh no, this is something that can really go down. This to me could end up being a Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn kind of situation that will go on for years, crossing promotions, ending up on national and international stages, because these two are incredible So please run it back, Mr. Decision Maker, at least one more time in the next few months, because we need to see.
Yeah, and Diana, I mean, let's look at the transition of Alexander Lev being so despised by not only like the locker room, but by the fans, by everybody, and then to see how the fans have taken to him at
Yeah.
the last show and during that match. You know, like it was clear who the fans were behind in that matchup. It was crazy.
Well, let's just go back a year or so from when he was literally the floor mat that people walked across to get into the Rumble Jack.
He was like the butt of the joke. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like he never got on his feet. He wasn't in the match. He wasn't invited to be in the match. He tried to insert himself into the match, but he wound up being on the floor most of the night. It's like anybody who walked by got a shot.
Yeah.
Or, got a lick in or whatever. And now he took Joe, great match with him and Joe. Even Joe said that, he's not done there. He's going to get another shot somewhere down the line. But the way the fans went from just being like, oh God, it's Alexander Lev and he is faithful, to turning and actually cheering him on. And he's now, I don't know if you want to call him a heel face heel. I don't know what it is, but he is absolutely a fan favorite right now. And he has a following, and rightfully so, because the way he has developed himself and evolved from being that floor mat to Lev, I mean, the way he's just changed himself and grown and learned and gotten better and better and better with every match, every time he gets in the ring. It's awesome. It's awesome to see. And I think that's what wrestling is supposed to be about. You're going to get better. You're going to change your dynamic. You're going to evolve and be something that you're supposed to be, rather than what you think you starting out to be. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying watching Lev be whatever he's going to be in the future. But it's a fun ride to watch. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun to watch, and for him and for Hunter James both, like we said, I mean, they're just getting started, and it's cool. I can't remember the exact line, but there's a line in The Office, like I think during the season finale or the series finale, when Andy says something like, "I wish you could know the good times when you're in them." Like when I can't remember exactly how he phrases it, but it's like kind of what you said, GB. That's what made me think of it, where it's like, like you got to realize, like, we're in the good times right now, the good old days. And like, we're seeing some of the beginnings of what later on people are going to look back on going, oh man, remember when they first matched up? And, so it's neat to be in our shoes and to be able to see all of this, like from its inception, basically.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, as you're saying that, it just kind of reminds me. I talk about this a lot on this podcast and even on commentary, that one of the real beauties of attending a Southern Honor event or being involved in our universe is these are the guys who have next in what are considered to be national promotions. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we just saw Sean Legacy and Jackson Drake, who have been on Southern Honor shows very recently, in the main event of the first episode of WWE Evolve. It's incredible. Like, it's really incredible to think that Jackson Drake was with us just a handful of months ago. Sean Legacy has been part of building the legacy of Southern Honor. So when you get to see an Alexander Lev, a Hollywood Hunter James, a Grayson Pierce, a superstar Jay Lucas, you get to see them up close and personal now. It doesn't take long. You've got Brooks Jensen right now in NXT, who's been doing major things for the last year and change. Again, a part of Southern Honor. So you never know who's going to show up on these larger stages, which is why you take advantage of the access that you get to them at every show at Southern Honor. Make sure you're doing that, because you can then educate other wrestling fans when you see them on a national stage. A couple of years ago, we were bragging on Austin Theory, kicking off WrestleMania against John Cena.
Unreal.
Right? That's a Southern Honor guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the cool part about what happens here. So make sure you're taking advantage and go back and watch, these previous shows on IWTV, because you get to see young legends really be birthed before they hit those national promotions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You said something there where you said you just never know who's going to show up. Well, it was at the end of the end of SHW 70 where talk about you never know who's going to show up. Austin Towers returned for the first time in at least 2 years, maybe longer than that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it's been a while. But he showed up and he had his eyes set on Joe Black's Southern Honor Championship. Well, on his way to the ring, he stormed to the ring. He laid out the Kenway. And, the Kenway didn't take too kindly to that. The Kenway wanted that matchup immediately. And thanks to, in large part to Joe Black kind of making the match as well, and then going to Jake the Snake, and Jake the Snake making it official, we had the Kenway taking on Austin Towers at SHW 71 just a couple of Fridays ago. I will say this from the get-go. I mean, obviously you see the size difference. You see there's a power difference. But GB, I think you and me and Sal at the table, and Diana, I'm sure you over at your table were just as shocked at right away, even before the bell. Like the Kenway jumped all over Austin Towers.
Smart.
To a point there where I thought, wait a second, this might be an upset in the making here. Now, it didn't necessarily turn out that way, but I thought what a great smart move there on the Kenway's part to jump out, kind of jump out with the lead, as it were.
I think Kenway's no pushover, okay? He's not some small dude. You know, if you see him across the ring from you, you're going to have to be on your toes, right? With Austin Towers being 7 foot tall, as big as he is, and just coming out of nowhere the month before, I believe Kenway had to, mentally prepare. What do I need to do to get the upper hand on this guy? Because I can't just go in there and go head to head because, you need a stool or something for that to get up there. Mm-hmm. So attacking him before the bell even rang was a smart strategic move, I believe.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I wasn't sure what was going to happen there. I mean, I really did feel like Kenway was going to come over to win, but either way, win or lose, that was a good match. It was a hard-fought battle, and I think he made his point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the Kenway represented the hierarchy very well. Again, he did not, kind of wait for the battle to come to him. He went to the battle. And in so doing it, I think that caught Austin Towers off guard. I almost called him Theory. It caught him off guard. And in so doing, it made him kind of have to readjust whatever his game plan was. Here's one thing that we may have forgotten because it's been so long since we've seen Austin Towers. That's a big guy.
Big guy.
He's a big guy. And to your point, Brandon, the Kenway is usually the bigger of the guys in a given match. So for him to be dwarfed said a lot. I think we've also seen in the time off that Towers has gotten better. He's become more agile. It feels like he's figured out what to do with his gigantic frame. Like sometimes you have all of the gifts, but not knowing what to do with them can kind of make you handicapped of sorts. And so he hadn't, he knew he was a big guy, but I don't know that he knew how to finesse it the way he does now. It's so evident right now that he belongs at the top of the card. Right. And I know, they want to make him earn it, and I get it. And I think him having to almost fight from behind by being attacked as he was, proved that he could be a lot more ready for that title match than some might want to admit. So a huge showing for Austin Towers to come back into a Southern Honor that looks far different than when he left. And trust me, we talk about that more on commentary. So go check that out.
Yeah. And it was interesting after the matchup, Murder won, throwing down the gauntlet basically for Austin Towers. We thought Towers might respond right then and there and get back in the ring, but he decided better of it and headed to the back. Will we see that matchup coming up at SHW 72? Time will tell. Some of the matches have been yesterday and today just starting to get announced. We saw that the infantry will be in action. We'll talk more about that in the weeks to come, and of course, see more of a full card be announced in the next couple of weeks. But I think a lot of the fans are going to want to see that one. I know we want to see that one, Murder One and Austin Towers. Time will tell, but I have a feeling our pal Sal and Jake the Snake have been on the phone with each other, kind of, getting things set up for the next show. So I can't wait to see what they come up with. But despite Austin Towers going over in that matchup, Kenway put on a heck of a fight, and like you said, had a great showing representing the hierarchy. But there's only so much you can do with a guy that's 7 foot tall and weighs twice as much as you do. But it was a heck of a night, heck of an effort there for the Kenway. But moving on down the card, I'm talking about these matches in order, as the order that they happened. Otherwise, I would have talked about this one first just to rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with. But Gunnar Miller, Matt Griffin's GM of Southern Honor Wrestling, Gunnar Miller and Rob Killjoy. Of course, we all know the backstory with Gunnar Miller and Matt Griffin over the last several months. But it was Rob Killjoy coming in to, stand up for Southern Honor Wrestling, representing Southern Honor Wrestling. And he's kind of been the litmus test all across Georgia wrestling for the last few years now, has Rob Killjoy. It was interesting because we wanted to see if because the thing is with Rob Killjoy can have a great match with absolutely anybody. He's an amazing wrestler. He's a veteran. He's been around for quite a while. And we know with Gunnar Miller, Diana, I know you might get on your soapbox here. I'm not sure how far you're going to go with it, but we know with Gunnar Miller,
this week.
I'll put it this way, that Gunnar Miller is known to have very short, very quick matches. He's known to win those very short, very quick matches. There's a reason for it, because he's dominant. He's powerful. Whereas we're used to seeing Rob Killjoy be a little more technical. It could be a little high flying. Rob Killjoy can kind of do it all. But Rob Killjoy is also known to have very lengthy matches. And so I was very interested to see this clash of styles here and see what Rob Killjoy could do against a guy like Gunnar Miller. I'll let you guys discuss the match, but one thing, and you know what? There's one thing I want to touch on that happened just this week, but I want to hear you guys' thoughts about this matchup before we get to that. Either one. Diana, go ahead.
Go Rob. Rob performed only as Rob can. He did a great job. I think I'm sorry to interrupt, but real quick, can I just say this? Every time we see Rob Killjoy come out, he goes to the crowd. Yes. Everybody brings their hands in. They do the quack chant. Never once has he brought that over to the commentary table. Never once. In other promotions where we've called his matches, never once has he come to the commentary. I don't know if it's because Sal was with us. I'm not sure why. But I got a kick out of that, GB. I don't know about you, but we got to be part of the quack attack. He's great. A duck of the people, man. Duck of the people.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're great. You're great. I didn't have a whole lot to say about Gunnar either. Anyway, I was keeping tally marks on his on the moves. I just wanted to see what would happen, what he would do, and I got up to maybe 6 different moves he did, which was I know wrestling's not just about doing moves, but it helps.
Wow.
GB, I'll let you take it.
Yeah, I know, Brandon, you're going to rip the Band-Aid off with that other information that recently came in from Gunnar. So I will leave that to you. Okay. I will say that this particular match was interesting, as you mentioned, for a number of reasons. A certain clash of styles. And it was going to be different because here, Gunnar had not attacked Killjoy from behind. We're looking at a space where Killjoy, and I talk about this on commentary, Killjoy had wrestled somewhere close to 400 matches last year, while Gunnar wrestled a whopping 45. There's a massive difference in terms of how often these guys had been in the ring, how much they'd put their bodies on the line and the like. So it was going to really be a question of, would the wear and tear and all of the experience of Killjoy being used to this be able to overcome just kind of Gunnar just wrestling every now and again. as opposed to the frequency of Killjoy. I will say this, Gunnar Miller gets more bold, more brash, more in your face with every show that happens. And it's kind of wild to watch because, you know, we're in an era right now in pro wrestling where we are learning that some people aren't who we thought they were, right? Maybe it was true that we couldn't see them because what we now see doesn't look like what we saw. And I think Gunnar Miller fits that bill. You know, the man who was known as the people's captain has turned over what seems to us to be a new leaf. Many are saying this is the real him. You know, there are some who might find justification in terms of, you know, what was going on between him and Gary and why he feels the way he does. I maintain this is the question for me. What's the ultimate goal right now for Gunnar Miller? Is it to regain the Southern Honor Championship? Or is it to somehow be in control of the company itself? His alignment with Mr. Action Wrestling, which is just hard to talk about, Matt Griffin, that alignment is one that still doesn't make a lot of sense, considering I don't recall him, since he's come back, certainly wrestling for Action. So I don't know what that is. I will say that it was a great match. Gunnar Miller came out with the win. But I think Gunnar Miller's making a lot of statements. And the real question is, where's he going from here? That's the first match of 2025 for him. And it's kind of like, wait a minute, where are we going? What's happening right now? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know.
That seems to be the theme. To me, that seems to be the theme for Gunnar Miller. We're always asking, what's next? Where's your focus? What's your goals? What's going on? Will we ever have an answer on? I don't know. We're going to let Matt Griffin tell us what's going on. I don't know. He's not saying a whole lot that's worth listening to. I don't know.
I don't know if you guys keep up with Daredevil, Marvel's Daredevil, but so now there's the bad guy on there, Kingpin. Well, so now Matt Griffin's calling himself the Kingpin of Georgia wrestling.
Oh,
I thought he said Penguin. I missed that completely.
Wow.
I'll go back and read that. My bad. I thought he said penguin. Looked more like a penguin.
Okay.
I'll leave that one alone. But I think we do know what might be next as far as what happens at the next show. I think the official announcement may come early next week, but after their matchup, he got right in Sal's face, Matt Griffin did, wanting a match with Sunny Days. The reason for that is because after Gunnar Miller defeated Killjoy, Sunny Days made his surprise return with the belt of his own. Because if you recall, Dylan Freimeyer got whipped and attacked by the belt of Gunnar Miller at the previous show and got bloodied up. And so Sunny Days made a surprise return.
Well, he was going to try to beat Rob with the belt before it came out. So, I mean, it's craziness. It's craziness how things are just changing.
Yeah. Well, so Matt Griffin got right in Sal's face demanding a match. It looks as if that match is going to be made official, and we'll see Sunny Days versus Gunnar Miller, hopefully at SHW72. And we'll have more, obviously, to say about that once we know it's official and once it gets a little closer. But the one thing I wanted to bring up at the beginning of this segment was something that was posted on Facebook earlier this week. Mm-hmm. And it was by none other than the GM of SHW, Gunnar Miller. It says, "A real message for my fellow coworkers at Southern Honor Wrestling. They say hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But that's never been my problem, because I've got both. I've never practiced this game, never had to struggle to keep up, and yet I've been on top of every show I've been part of since day one. While the rest of you are out there grinding, hoping, wishing you could be great, I wake up already there. I don't need luck. I don't need second chances. I need a challenge. And let's be real, none of you are it. You're welcome, the real GM. Then he would go on to list a few names. Georgia Wrestling, middle finger. Dylan, middle finger. Gary, middle finger. Gerard, you're cool. Brandon, middle finger. Larry Goodman, you the man. Sal, middle finger. What I want to know, GP, is what has changed over the last few months, because if I'm not mistaken, Gunner was coming after you on social media and none of us. Now, all of a sudden, Gerard, you're cool. Brandon, middle finger. What's that all about?
I don't know. I was as shocked to read it as you were. I hope that he has been able to at least see some degree of balanced journalism that I'm trying to present in that regard. I've tried to be as respectful as possible. I'll tell you who I'm surprised did not make the list, and that's Diana Michelle.
Exactly.
I thought Diana would be on the list, but maybe I don't know.
I thought she'd be getting the double birds.
That's what listen, after everything I've heard, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I just call it as I see it. And I mean, I think my questions are legit. I think my comments are legit. We'll just leave
there might be another post after this podcast.
I was going to say, we might, yeah.
We might wake up tomorrow to one and go, oh.
My feelings will not be hurt.
I was about to say, we'll be talking.
Anytime you call my name, it's going to bring more light to me. So bring it.
Well, there you go. But I was going to say, we might be talking again next week, and we might have some an update on the list.
We might.
But let's move on down the card here. The Jake the Snake Legacy Championship title was on the line. Kyle Matthews defending against the in-games Todd Sexton. Kyle Matthews holding previous victories over Nick Halen, over CT Keys, to the point where Todd Sexton finally said, you know what, guys, I'll do this myself and represent the in-game and win the JTS Legacy title. However, that would not be the case. Kyle Matthews, as I think most of us figured he would, came out successful. The thing is, we weren't sure if Todd would have the backup because, as is the case in most in-game matches, it's always a numbers game. And in this case, though, Kyle Matthews able to come out on top and defeat Todd Sexton. Both guys, veterans in the game, both guys with a long, long history, and both guys very technical wrestlers. We saw a lot of technicality in this matchup, and it was a great match. But in the end, Kyle Matthews comes away with the victory, and still your JTS Legacy champion. But you guys, your thoughts on this one?
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Of course.
Of course he did. We knew that. I mean, we knew it. I mean, Todd put up a good fight. It was great. It was whatever. He did not have his backup. I didn't see Nick Halen. Did y'all see? Did I miss that? I didn't see Nick Halen. I didn't see CT until it was time for his match. So, of course he did.
She said, it's whatever. Man, Diana is wild, yo. She's wild. I will say this. It was not a foregone conclusion for me. And the reason it wasn't a foregone conclusion for me is because the end game never travels alone. Exactly. So I fully expected to see Nick Halen show up at some point. I fully expected to see CT Keys show up at some point. So the real story here is, where were they? That's the story here, because it says to me, the cracks in the end game can no longer be hidden.
And where's Judias?
Where's Judias?
You know,
Judias literally disappeared off the face of the earth after losing the SHW championship. We've not seen a text message. We've not seen a video. He hasn't sent a smoke screen. I don't know where he is.
How
they
are
don't
you
even talk
feeling
about it.
that?
How do we feel about it? I think it's interesting.
Relieved.
I think, well, I mean, that part, you know, but I also think it speaks volumes to where the end game is right now. Mm-hmm. Think about this. Kyle Matthews did something that I don't recall any other Southern Honor wrestler doing, and that is defeating every member of the end game. He's now done that. And so how does Todd Sexton go back to the end game and without the championship, after he said, I'm going to do what you guys couldn't do? Why was CT Keys not out there? Yes, he had a match, but would you not support the one who we believe is the mastermind and the leader of the end game, Nick Halen wasn't even in the building. So to me, the end game, who was at one point the most powerful group in this company, I'm going to go on and say I don't know that they're a threat anymore, because they're not as united. Now, there could be another chapter to that, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Of course.
But I think in terms of that unity that we are accustomed to seeing, that was not on display at SHW71. And I don't know if there was jealousy about who should get the opportunity at the championship. I don't know if they realize that if we come out here, he'll win the championship and he might make it unbearable for us. I don't know. What I do know is it's about time to ask some questions of the end game. What are you guys doing? Because it doesn't look like the united front that dominated this company for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Especially with CT having his own focus. I mean, he had Cruel that night, and he's got his sights set on Alex Kane. That's a lot. I mean, if I was him, I wouldn't want to be dealing with this drama of the end game either. So,
Time will tell. Time will tell. Speaking of championships, let's talk about these SHW tag team titles. The Open Challenge had been put out by the Infantry a few months back. The Skulk stepped up in January to answer that challenge. However, weather postponement, February, schedule conflicts, and we finally got to that match at SHW71. The Skulk versus the Infantry. We know it was going to be an instant classic, and I dare say that it was. But no matter how great the match was, it was what happened at the end that left a lot of people talking, where the Infantry successfully defended the titles, went for the handshake. Sean and Carly both received low blows from the Skulk, and then the Skulk would take the actual championship belts and leave with them, and have since been posting on social media of them out and about with the title belts, claiming that they are the Southern Honor Tag Team Champions. We all know that's not true. Nobody more so than the Infantry knows that's not true, and believe you me, they are fired up. So I can't wait to see. It was just announced yesterday that Sean and Carly will be in action. The Open Challenge is still in effect. We don't know who they're going to be facing. We'll see who steps up. But it doesn't matter who they're facing. I want to see where their heads are at ever since their belts got stolen by the Skulk. So, great match. Your thoughts on the match, and then your thoughts with the Skulk stealing the title belts.
And the match was good. I thought the match was great. Infantry did their thing. The Skulk, I mean, they were good competitors. We knew the Infantry was coming away with their titles. I mean, come on.
By the way, GB, can I just say this real quick about Diana? She seems to have known a lot. She keeps saying, we knew.
Clearly.
We knew.
I'm like, say what?
You know what? It's in my heart. I mean,
it just makes me laugh. I love it, though. I love your passion.
I do.
We knew.
I mean, I didn't know that Owen was not going to win. Okay. I didn't know Owen was going to lose the triple threat.
You can't get them all.
Can't get them all. But, the ones I really, really feel.
Yeah.
This one I felt. I don't know what's going on with Skull. I don't know a whole lot about them, but it seems like the only way they're going to be champions is if they steal it. So there you go. There you have that. So whatever. I'm interested in seeing who the Infantry is going to take on next month as well. But how are you going to defend your titles if you don't have them in your hand? So what are we doing about that? What's going on there?
Interesting times right now, for sure. The match with the Skulk and the Infantry was highly anticipated. After a couple of months, we finally got the match. And, I talk about this on commentary, just the idea that there were moments in that match where it felt like the Skulk, who looked so dominant the month before, may have been intimidated once actually having to face the champions. It's one thing, everybody talks a big game when it's your opportunity to step into the big time. But once you are in it, once you're face to face, once the talk is over and you actually have to do something, it's a different level. We talk about that all the time, but it really, really is. And I think the Skulk honestly might have been a little overwhelmed, which is why they resorted to stealing the tag team championship belts. This actually, I think, will frustrate the infantry as it already has. Will it throw the infantry off their game? Because I'm sure at some point they're going to want to get these championship belts physically back. I mean,
Yeah, of
being
course.
champions in name only, that doesn't work. Like we are the 5-time commentary team of the year and the 5-time announcers of the year, but look behind them, right? It's the trophies that
Right.
we're able to bring with us that show the people, no, we really did it.
Really
So it's hard for the infantry to run around the country telling the world they're the Southern Honor Tag Champs. Oh, but our belts aren't here right now. Our belts are with someone else. So that's I think the Skulk did that obviously on purpose to frustrate the infantry and
Oh, it
perhaps
worked.
take advantage. Oh yeah.
It
The
worked.
question is, can they take advantage of that frustration whenever they get their shot? Now, in terms of what the infantry does next, last week, Carly Bravo was at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And he decided to go live on the Book of Faces.
Whew.
When he did,
Boy,
he
did he.
decided to talk about Georgia wrestling.
Yeah.
And he got into this whole thing about the Skulk. So first, let me publicly say, Carly, that as I was leading up to the match, I was merely quoting what the Skulk said. I didn't per se believe it. I know you guys are out there ripping and running all over the world, representing Southern Honor all day, every day, nationally, internationally. I know that. I was trying to be a good journalist and tell both sides of the story. That is why I shared what the Skulk had to say. But with that, Carly Bravo made some news of his own, saying that he's ready for Joe Black and the SHW championship. Now, Joe Black somewhat responded to that, but for Carly to just put it out there like that was wild. And it's personally a dream match, especially at this stage in both of their careers. I don't know if Jake the Snake or Sal Renaro hop onto the socials like that. A lot of things happen in their worlds. But if they haven't, they might want to check that out. And they may want to give some thought to, at some point down the line, us seeing a match like this happen. Or we haven't talked about this. What if the hierarchy answers the open challenge?
Stranger things have happened.
Stranger things have happened.
Murder
shall
did
see.
mention being the best tag team that ever held those titles. It did mention that. I mean, no strangers. They're not strangers.
Dinah said, I'm just saying.
They're not strangers. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, it's interesting when Carly does those lives. It's not very often, but when it's like giving somebody a live microphone. It's like giving, like when
Money.
Scott Steiner would get a live mic and you never knew what he was going to say. But the thing is, like with Carly, when it's on Facebook Live, it's not like it's a pre-planned promo he's doing or he's promoting something specific, like an upcoming. He's just off the top of his dome.
It's a little more put together than the Scott Steiner promo.
I know, but my point is, you just never know what he's gonna say.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I mean. And it's just
Yeah.
off the dome. It's like just whatever he's thinking about. It's not like, I'm here to promote this show coming up this date. I have this match. And that's why it was so surprising, GB, to your point, when all of a sudden he was like, whoa, wait a second. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Right.
So I get what you mean, and it was a little surprising for anybody that saw it. And I know it got shared around, so I know a lot of people saw it. But anyways, moving on down the card, we talked about CT Keys earlier. Diana, you touched on it. He was a little focused on his matchup, a little too preoccupied to perhaps help out Todd during his match. Well, CT Keys was preoccupied because he was taking on not just a former Southern Honor champion, a former IWTV world champion, and dare I say, not even a man, a monster in the atrocity Cruel. What a clash of titans this was. I mean, two big bulls clashing in the center of the ring. Man, oh man. It did not go on last. We had a championship match in the main event, but thankfully the ring held up. I was a little worried there for a second.
Well, they took it out of the ring and went to the crowd.
And I was going to say the reason probably that the ring did survive is because most of the fight was happening in the audience. And by the way, shout out to some of the folks in the front row getting very up close and personal with the competitors. But man, oh man, the fans that night got their money's worth for sure, because that match went all over the place. And maybe one of the biggest shock. Here's the thing. Joe Black told us on the previous podcast before SHW71, I thought, I said potentially, could CT Keys be biting off more than he can chew? This is kind of like the Carly thing with UGB. Like, I was just throwing it out there. I wasn't saying I think that. But Joe Black like looked at me sideways when I said, "Is CT biting off more than he can chew?" He goes, "No, of course not. CT can go toe to toe with Cruel, and absolutely he can. But I think to the general audience, to the vast majority, I think it would surprise a lot of people if he were able to defeat Cruel. Well, what did he do? He went out there and he defeated Cruel, the former Southern Honor champion. What's that?
He did
not by himself.
Well, but still, he still defeated Cruel.
He did in the books, but not by himself. There were shenanigans.
Fair enough. I will say, though, he finally hit that cutting edge after numerous attempts. Or, as some people call it, GB, the, what is it? I was wondering how loud he was going to go with it. Okay.
Yeah.
Period. And,
period.
Yeah. But it took, I don't know.
By the way, since you said that, I got to shout out my man, Caprice Coleman. His birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday to you, Caprice. Absolutely. I appreciate you, brother. So in honor of him,
Period. There it is. I think, by the way, because it was so loud just then, it cut out. But I know what you were doing.
Oh, did it?
Wow. We heard the beginning of it, and then it went.
Figures.
But hey, happy birthday, Caprice. Big shout out to Caprice. And man, it took 3 or 4 or 5 attempts. He finally got Cruel down. CT Keys coming away with the big win. Diana, your thoughts? I know you said there were shenanigans. There were, but
the whole match was exactly what I said before the show. 2 beastly, brawly meat men going at it. Basically what it was. It was great. Running back, I love the city, and that's just one of those things that you can't get enough of. It is what it is. But I mean, yeah, I love it. I mean, CT, I love to watch CT wrestle. I love to watch Cruel go out there and just dominate the world. It's amazing. But when they come together and I can't say it's magic, it's more just chaos, but I mean, it's chaos you can't turn away from. You want more of it. And I want more of it.
Yeah, without question, there are many flavors of pro wrestling. There's the technical pieces that we got with Kyle Matthews and Todd Sexton. There's great tag team wrestling. There's high flying, acrobatic kinds of things like we would get with a Jay Lucas. But smash mouth wrestling is what we got with CT Keys and Cruel. It's really what the territories were made of. It's the tough guy contest. I mean, it's those things. You were not going to see Hurricane Ranas and Spanish Flies, but you were going to see just flat out hard punches and strikes. You're going to see power, and they did all of that. I think when we all found out that it was going to be Cruel, everybody went, hold on, wait a minute, because I know CT's tough, but Cruel is a monster. And to be clear, it was fair that we thought that.
Right.
It's been 3 years, 3 whole years since Cruel has lost a singles match in Southern Honor. And when that happened, it was via countout. So you're talking about getting his shoulders pinned to the mat?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that doesn't happen very often. 3 years ago, Southern Honor was a very different place. So for Cruel to come back after being a world champion 2 times over, after killing a man, right? Like, he's done all of these things. This is the toughest version of Cruel we've ever seen. This was not the softer side of Sears here. This was a very difficult, challenging version of Cruel. And that's the version that CT Keys beat. That, to me, arguably makes CT Keys the most dangerous man in Southern Honor Wrestling. I said it. Because beating someone like Cruel is very difficult to do, and it's rare. And you're talking about pinning Cruel? He pinned Cruel. Talk about shenanigans. The shenanigans didn't involve a flaming 2x4.
Sure.
It didn't involve a table, right? It didn't involve something like a cinder block that would knock this guy out. CT Keys in his power was able to pounce a monster and get a win. Like that's a problem. And so, man, my hat goes off to CT Keys. He proved without a shadow of a doubt he's one of the toughest guys to ever come through this company. And I don't know what he wants next. He'll obviously tell us. But whatever this man wants, he's earned the opportunity to get, because he just beat a world champion and a Southern Honor champion and a monster all in one night.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder
insane.
if we can kind of get him on the Southern Honor side, so maybe we can pit him against Gunner.
Well, remember, they had a match. They had a match several months ago. Obviously, Gunner was thinking a little bit differently at that time, trying to fight through the end game. It was a barn burner. Gunner ultimately won that match, and it was literally by a hair. I wonder how different that looks now, and if Gunner even would have the drive for a match like that. He was driven. He had a point to prove. He had a mission. Yeah, so the question is there the kind of focus that he would even want to entertain that match? Because that was a physical match for him.
It was.
Probably one of the most physical he's had in his career. I don't know that he wants to revisit that.
Yeah. Plus, I think we may know where CT's head is at, because
of course,
coming out for his match, the main event, Alex Kane, the forever MLW world champion, making his way out to the ring. And we saw yet another confrontation between Kane and CT Keys, such that folks had to come out, officials had to come out and kind of keep them separated there. Time will tell. I mean, any minute, though, we're going to get that match, because there's been all these little teases of it. And, the fans are just frothing at the mouth like, I can't wait to see Kane versus Keys. It's going to be insane. So I don't know when. I don't know where. Hopefully in the Action Building at some point we'll see that matchup. But
absolutely.
Kane making his way out for the main event, Southern Honor Championship. Joe Black, Alex Kane. I mean, this was one of our main events for the ages. Like I said before the show, it felt like Still Here prior to Still Here. This feels like one of our big anniversaries. So the card was that stacked. And this championship matchup, I think it lived up to the billing. I mean, we said it was going to be an instant classic, and I think most people left that night thinking that was the case. Joe Black able to retain the title, but man, and there was some stuff that happened after the match we'll talk about here in a second. But just to get you guys' thoughts on the main event match itself.
We knew this match was going to be a hard hitting, chopping from here to yonder. That was crazy. Just the chops by themselves was crazy. I'd love to see this one again. But let's just touch on the matches and the defending of the title that Joe Black has been doing. The matches that he's had in defending this title since he's become the champion. Wow. I mean, who would have thought Lev would have taken him to the limit that he did? But then the very next month, the same thing with Alex. But it was just, I don't know. Joe's amazing. He's a beast in himself. I mean, the Dreadwolf. He's the champion that we wanted. He's the champion that we needed. He's the champion that we deserve. And I'm glad he's still the champion. I do want to watch this match again. I'm probably going to go back and watch it on IWTV once we're done here, because it was so good. But yeah, run this back, but add CT to the mix. Just because. I want to see it. Give me the triple threat.
By the way, real quick, now GB, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this, and before we get to that, can I just say, why on earth, when Alex Kane is on the far side of the ring and he wants to use somebody's chair, Why didn't he go take Zach the Gear Guy's chair? He came all the way across the other side of the ring, kicked me out of my chair, and took it.
Were you gonna tell him no?
I was not going to tell him no. I would never do that. I'm just curious why he expended the extra effort to come all the way over to our table when Zach and Diana's table is right there.
Well, he wasn't gonna take my chair, but he wanted you to get an up close and personal look.
That's why I said Zach the Gear Guy. I didn't want him to take your chair. He take Zach's chair. Anyways, GB, your thoughts?
It's hilarious. I will start by saying, for many, this was a dream match, and it lived up to the billing. The unpredictable thing about pro wrestling is, and like any sport, you get hype, you get excited, you get the stats, and then you play the game. And when you play the game, there's always something that can happen that can alter what you thought the game would look like.
Mm-hmm.
This was a close game, however you look at it. These two really battled it out. We knew Alex Kane was going to have to hit some suplexes, and he did. What was so interesting to me about this match was you really had both sides in a must-win kind of situation. On one hand, you got Alex Kane, former MLW champion who had never lost a match here at Southern Honor, getting an opportunity to win a championship he had never held. On the other side, you got Joe Black. While he is the defending champion, Joe Black gets the opportunity to prove to the world that he should have been on all of the other stages that Alex Kane has been afforded. He's been in the business twice as long. He's arguably worked twice as hard. It's just the issue that the people didn't know his name, but they knew Alex Kane's name. So a win for Joe Black is a statement that says, I know I belonged here. Now I've beaten former world champions who's been on these stages. You can no longer deny me. So it was a must win for both of these guys for completely different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we got to see was that Joe Black had a little bit extra. He had that drive. He had what it took. And, to your point, Diana, the matches we've been getting from Joe Black as the Southern Honor champion needs to be studied.
Yes.
Not only does it need to be studied, but it needs to be acknowledged and valued. This is the Joe Black we believed in. These are the kinds of matches we believed could happen. I mean, think about it. Jackson Drake, instant classic. Alexander Lev, instant classic. Alex Kane, instant classic, which says if you're going to get in the ring with the Southern Honor champion, you just can't, decide that, hey, I've been wrestling at some company and I think I'm better than Southern Honor, so I'm going straight to the title. No. You are battling right now someone at the tip top of his game. And when our champion is at the top of the game, the promotion is at the top of the game.
Right.
I will put on record and say, I don't believe that any other promotion in Georgia has a champion who can beat our champion. Therefore, they're not putting on matches that can defeat these main events that we're getting from Joe Black. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's why Austin Towers has had to prove himself and not just walk in and get a title match, because you're operating on a completely different level. Here's the thing, the guys who can't beat Joe Black now end up on WWE ID. That's how good Joe Black is. So you're not just talking about just a random champion who just got lucky at an independent promotion. Far from that. He's the best, and he's the best for a reason. And that's why people are challenging him. Alex Kane, a very worthy challenger, a former world champion, bows down to Joe Black. I think we need to really acknowledge the era that we're in right now. It's a special era, guys, a special era. It's the era of the Dreadwolf.
Absolutely.
Well
Absolutely. And I wish he would have had a little more time to celebrate that victory. But what ended up happening? CT Keys comes out, Alex Kane, CT Keys fighting into the crowd. And just when you think that's it, you look up on stage, Austin Towers has a bloody murder one. I don't know what happened backstage, but he hit him with something because his face was covered in blood. And so Joe Black ended his night after an amazing title defense, not able to really celebrate the win, but he ended the night up on the stage, kneeling down next to Murder One, who was all bloodied. And what does that do for next month? I think we know. I think we're going to see Murder One get his payback or attempt to get the payback against Austin Towers. And we'll see. I don't know what's next for Joe Black, but I mean, any and all comers, bring it because, like you guys said, it's been instant classic after instant classic. And who is still your SHW champion after many months? That would be the Dreadwolf, the Killer Weight, the Black Cloud. Call him what you will. But we all will call him the Southern Honor Champion.
Right.
Yes, we will.
Oh, man, what a show it was. Go check it out on IWTV. It is there now for your viewing pleasure. We will be back next week and in the weeks to come, leading up to April 4th, which is SHW72. As I mentioned, those matches are starting to be announced this week and into next week. And so we will be kind of looking ahead and previewing the next big card put together by not only Jake the Snake Roberts, but our new decision maker, our pal Sal Arenaro. And you guys, it's been a good one. I'm excited. I got excited all over again just reviewing the show, almost as excited as I was at the show, which was incredible. And we say it all the time, folks. There's nothing like being there live. We appreciate you guys watching on IWTV, but you got to make it out to the Action Building and see it in person. There's nothing like it. April 4th is the next one. And but we'll talk to you guys before then. And before we wrap up, anything left? Did I forget anything? All right. All good.
Grab some merch.
Yeah.
ProWrestlingTees.com/SHW pod. 2 great shirts there. One represents, actually, they both represent us. One of them is just kind of the name of our podcast. The other is a very fun graphic of the 3 of us. You'll definitely want to go check it out again. ProWrestlingTees.com/SHW pod. And then follow us on these socials at SHW pod as well.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, and one more time, quick reminder. Tomorrow, I will be at O'Reilly's Pub in Sandy Springs, St. Baldrick's Foundation, shaving heads, raising money for childhood cancer research and treatments, shaving our heads in solidarity with the kids that lose their hair during cancer treatments. And if you need any info there, if you want to donate, go to my socials. I've been posting about it over the last couple of weeks. You'll get all the info there. So, but yeah, that's going to do it until we see you back here on the show. This has been
SHW.
This is our wrestling.